All right, you guys. All right, let's settle that down. So today we're going to do a photo retouch, DIG1115. And here is the before. And you just saw the after. So today we're going to fix up Allie. Allie was a student in the class just like the one you're taking right now. And thank you, Allie, for being our model that day. Here's the after again. So let's do a retouch on Allie and go through the steps. We'll close this one off and get started. Okay, I'm not going to save anything. This is basically how it works. This was a shoot down by the river's edge in Stewart, and it was shot in RAW. So it's a camera RAW file. It opens up in camera RAW, which is a utility of Photoshop. Has a lot of useful tools and image adjustments. So let's get used to that. Okay, so there's the autos, and you have that was histogram, auto black and white, right over here. I don't use these much. I like to customize a little bit, but you know, you got to click through them and make sure you get familiar. Here's where you reset. You got to look for the ellipse over here. The camera RAW likes to change things up a lot. So where is the reset button? Often it looks like a loop going backwards. Here's some profiles that you can use, and they're worth going through. These are the folders, so basic, curves, details, which sharpen, and there's probably 10 different folders in here. Each one of them has a purpose. So you got to open and close them down. You get an idea what's happening. These are the tools right here. Okay. So, just familiarizing yourself with the tools helps out a little bit as we get going here. So you use camera RAW. This is nice that it gives you all the camera settings right in here. You use camera RAW for a lot of things, but it's not the end all. Okay, you open up, and if you have a camera RAW file, it's going to open up automatically. You have to go through the process of using camera RAW. The utility, it's a filter actually, and it's found in the filters. Okay, here's where you can change your temperature under basic, and you can change the tint so you get a different feel. If you want it warmer or cooler, you can adjust them here. And here's your exposure controls, which give you like light in the picture. So exposure, a lot of times I go up. Contrast, I like a little more. Highlights will go up, and then shadows will most likely go down. This creates more contrast. And the same thing, whites up and blacks down. And that's typically how I like to work. It's just always giving more punch and contrast to the image. Okay, down in here in the texture, clarity, and dehaze, this is where you can kind of get yourself like a digital foundation, like the makeup. You can kind of just soften the image, and it will go over the entire image. So a lot of times what I do is I use layer masks to clean these things up. I'll just use it just for the face. Like it does really good work for the complexion. So texture, obviously you don't want more, and then clarity a little less, and then dehazing, you'll see how you get a feel of the softness in the skin. Now this is going to apply to the skies and things, and the texture of the pile or that pole that's to the left. So you may want to do that, and that's why I use layer masks. But adjust these. These work really good. This used to take a lot of time years ago, but when this came out, I was like really impressed with the ability to soften the skin. Okay, the next folder is curves, and a lot of times we just create what's called an S curve, so you can go through and independently adjust red, green, blue channels, or just the overall contrast. And you take this rubber band or the curve, and when you pull down, you create more shadow and then highlights by pulling up the top. So by doing this little, what we call the S curve, you create little more contrast. So it's just outside of the basic, and you can tweak it. Levels works the same way. It's a little more adjustment, gets it more punch. Photos a lot of times are a little bit flat, and so we have to use a little bit of Photoshop. Detail, You know, you got to get in here and do some sharpening. This is where the sharpening is, and you can sharpen a little before and a little at the end. So you can use 2 passes of sharpening. You can use it here, and then you can also do it inside of the sharpen, like the unsharp mask filter or smart sharpen, which are filters that are outside of Camera Raw. So Camera Raw is a really good utility to get yourself going. You can crop in here. You can do a few things that you know you can pick up later inside of just Photoshop itself. When you're done, you say okay, done, and then it's you know, that's really, you know, you just made the change, but it closes down. Which if you want it to open in Photoshop, you have to hit the open button. So done is, you know, made the adjustment. You can still see the adjustments when you brought it back up, and you can reset it. So this is non-destructive. And then, you know, you can look at all your settings. Okay, you can still reset it, but if you're ready to go into Photoshop, you hit the open, and then it opens up in Photoshop. That's the difference between done and open. Okay, I'm just using the Control minus and Control plus to zoom in a little bit here with the scrunchy zoom, they call it. And just taking a look, let's look at C for crop. Go to the crop tool. Over here, there's some presets, 5:7, but it doesn't change my resolution, or it doesn't adjust the resolution. So I might not use that one. Just looking at, you know, this is where you can crop to a grid and adjust it. Okay. Okay, so now I'm on 5:7 with 300 pixels per inch. And I'm just framing up the picture the way, you know, so that, you know, I'm considering the rule of thirds. I'm looking at the distance off of the edges for the breathing room, the headroom. If I want to put a title above the head, or, you know, graphics or anything else, these things have to be thought out. Because so now I'm at a 5, the width, and 7 height, 300 pixels per inch. Here's the move tool. Here's all my tools. I'm just going to float them over in a 2 column. Okay. Here's a little bit of patch, and these are photo retouching tools that we went over in the first retouch. But this one we wanted to do a little bit more with the tools, and also with Camera Raw. Okay. So we're just kind of looking around for places you might want to make changes. This is spot healing. All you have to do with this, I love this tool because you just click. You know, you just click on it and it just automatically samples pixels near it and it cleans them up. So, you know, Ali doesn't need a whole lot of work. So you don't have to spend too much with it. You just kind of cruise around, look, and make some little changes, tiny little changes here. All that work in Camera Raw kind of cleaned up her complexion. Gave her a good tan, and the bangs, if they bother you or anything like that, you can kind of play around with, you know, removing them. Sample with the clone stamp. You can get rid of those things and content aware, but you just make the little tiny little adjustments. Okay. So, looking good. All right, Ellie. Let's see, anything else here before we get going? Just kind of knock around a little bit. Okay. Let's do just a little bit. We'll just take and do a little dodge. Okay, it works. The dodge tool works on same premise. It's a brush, so you can open and close it with the brackets between the P and the piping bar, and just do a little bit of dodge. There's a lot of different ways to teach you how to lighten teeth, but this is just quick and easy. I mean, there's just a little bit of dodging. The opposite is burn. I've been using those tools in my darkroom as a kid for years and years, they're still named the same thing. When you want to lighten things, you dodge it, and when you want to darken, you burn it. You always make that duplicate layer so that you can dump that layer if you need to. Okay, let's just do a little adjustment layer, a little contrast work. This is the curves again, so you can adjust just by one layer. So what we're going to do here is just adjust the color of her lipstick. So you can see overall with this curves adjusting just red, the whole picture is red. But what I want to do is use the mask and just adjust the absolute, just the lip. So we're just going to give her a little bit more lipstick, and here's layer on, layer off, and here's the mask right here. So it's easier for me to paint just in than erase everything. So watch, I'll just invert the mask. So now the mask goes to, after I go to invert, it's right over here, it's white. It goes to black. So I inverted the mask, the chip was selected, Control I is the quick easy, and now it's just a matter of grab a brush. I need to make sure that my foreground color is white. It's the opposite of black. So I'm going to edit the mask, but I need to zoom in. So I use the Control and the space bar to scrunchie in. I've got a brush, and it looks like the brush is kind of hard, so I better go back and adjust it. So I'm going to soften the brush. Softens it up. That's in my adjustments in the top left. Come back over, adjust the size of the brush with the brackets between the P and the piping bar, and just kind of lighten. Well, let's just give her some more color in there. Kind of adjust her lipstick a little bit, and it's a little much, but I don't have to use a selection tool or anything. Just paint it in. It's really quick and easy, pretty harmless. And you can always go back to the black and erase it. So it's white and black. White will add it and black will remove it. So you can see by inverting the mask, it was easier for me just to paint it in than to remove all of the red. Now, if I don't, this is before and after, if I don't like how much it is, then I'll probably go over and adjust a little bit. I take a look, and then I go back and adjust some of the opacity. So you can always drag the opacity down, and it's real subtle. So just go back and forth over the opacity, and this is a lot, this is a little, this is none. So you kind of dial it in. Just dial it in like that, and adjust the mask a little bit. Just tweaking that. You can do this for like everything. Change the color of the eyes. So we'll do that again in another workshop, another example. Do eyes, but this time we're going to do lips. Okay, there's the lips adjusted. And this is the difference. Looking at the before and after. This is a different approach. Every time I do this, like work on a project, they all come out a little bit different. Okay, let's look over. Let's get another adjustment layer. Let's go into levels. Do something similar to. Works the same way. So levels, this is overall. It's a red, green, and blue. So I'm doing all three channels. This is an overall contrast job. So you take the middle slider. It lightens the entire image. But notice I did it right above the paint layer. Already puts a layer mask in for you. So that's great. Thank you, Photoshop. They used to take us way more steps to do that. And now I'm just going to mask it in. So I've got the brush again, and this time I'm going to just bring back, by painting the black in, bring in, see, I overdid her. I brought way too much lightness to her, but by doing this one effect, I'll lighten the background a lot, but leave her alone because she was kind of blown out. So all that I'm doing is just painting in the original layer. you can see that this is really just lightening the background area. So just lighten it up a little bit. That one's a little oversaturated, but I kind of liked it just that day. You know, every day seems to be a little different. Depends, I guess, on what you ate or whatever, you know, how you feel that day. But sometimes just, it's fun, you know, it's Photoshop. So I'm going to look a little bit over in my images, and I'm going to duplicate this one because I'm going to make, this is a different one. So this is just another version right here. It's an easy one. It's kind of a safety to make a copy. Okay, we got the levels, did the curves, did some adjustments. This one here, I'm going to flatten it out. So I'm going to go over to my hamburger button, my options, and I'm going to merge all the layers out, and because I'm going to create a little bit of an effect by just using liquify. I use it a little bit for myself for sure with the jowls and stuff like that. So if you're cheeky and you want to bring that in a little bit, okay, this is called liquify. And this is a face detection section right over in here, which works pretty good. But I'm just going to go up and use the warp tool right here. So here's warp. Works again like a brush, so you just open and close by the brackets between the P and the piping bar. And I'm just going to bring in her cheeks just a little bit, just like that. Just, you know, just kind of bring it in a little bit, bring in a little bit on the side. It's always the profile. You got to watch it. You don't want to have it be a little wrinkly. You got to smooth it out a little bit. And then here's pucker. So we can kind of work on the nose a little bit and just kind of scrunch it up a little bit. You can imagine all the different things you can do. You can open the eyes with this liquify. You know, you can, so the tools, there's a freeze, and there's warp, and there's bloat, and there's pucker, and the face detection. And it works really good. It's just part of the process. I always use it for doing photo retouching. I'm trying to take it slow with you guys today because I don't want to, you know, go real fast. But usually with a picture like this, I might go 15 to 20 minutes for a retouch and just make sure I hit on everything. Look at the eyes, lighten the eyes, and I, you know, retouch a little bit. So just be before and after with liquify. Just kind of tightens it up a little bit. But you notice I flattened the image. The reason I flattened the image because if I were with the duplicate layer earlier on the other file, I would have had some really weird experience or really weird results. So, you know, you gotta flatten it down. So the last one we're gonna do is sharpen. So we're gonna do one more pass on sharpen, just to kind of sharpen it up. Now look, I go into places like the eyes, and where there's eyelashes and details normally in teeth, earrings, jewelry. Those are the things you want. Bangs are sharp, but the rest of the things you don't want sharp. So you don't want to over sharpen skin, and that becomes a hard texture again and makes your skin porous, and nobody likes to have super porous skin. So you adjust these, you know, amount is obvious, but the radius is usually about 1.5 on the pixel count, and then threshold is an adjustment again. You really go, when you think about the unsharp mask, you think of 3 balls in the air, but just take radius and put it to 1.5. Then you're really juggling 2 balls, and you know, it's just you got to tweak it right in the eyes. Now, the reason I made a copy layer is because I want to put a mask on it, so I can put it. This is before and after, and I want to put a layer mask on it. So when I put the layer mask on it, I can just paint it in. The same routine that I did with the lipstick. So I make the mask here, okay? Then I invert it, which is the control I. It's like I never did anything. I zoom in. You got to get in a little bit closer. You're going to need a brush, and it's going to have to be the opposite color of black, which is white. So then you adjust the brush with the brackets between the P and the piping bar, and then you paint in the white right where you want the little bit of sharpening. So you sharpen the eyes just like that. Sharpen the eyebrows and around the nose a little bit. Lips, you know, you got to look around, just kind of get into the lashes. And obviously we're going to overdo it. And then what we do is we remove some of the detail, the over sharpening by adjusting the opacity. So this makes the earring pop a little bit. So it's just, I find a little around the nose. I like to do a little around the teeth, sharpen the teeth up, make some, pop. And then the eyes, and then bangs. I'll do a bang or two, something like that, make the hair pop. Okay, so when you're done with that, you can adjust those properties with the opacity. This is before and after by just dialing it in. You just change. So if you don't like 100% of this effect, you can take 50% of the effect. And that's really just dialing in the sharpening. You don't just sharpen the whole picture. You only sharpen where you need. Now I'm going to save it off. So you want to save your master file. And that will be, as a PSD. That's your project file. Okay, find your place that you need to save things. Maximize the compatibility, absolutely. You'll need that in After Effects. And then after that, and if I want to send it off to another bureau, like let's say I want to print it, or, looking at the files and wondering which ones I'm going to print, you can see every time I do it, I have a different version. So I save off a JPEG at the end so that I can, you can, for social media, for printing at Walgreens, or just emailing your friends and stuff like that. That's where, you save it off. So these are, I'm just saving the PSDs, but, when you want a JPEG, you'll have to go File, Save As, select JPEG, and then you're in good shape. So just kind of looking over the pictures one last time here. Cool. All right, another good photo retouch. James Mason here again, and we'll see you guys next time.